तू चलता चल तू चलता चल तू चलता चल.
Congratulations, first of all. Today we have with us Shaharadh, and he's from Kerala. He has done his electrical and electronics engineering. He is working as an associate program manager at Upgrad, and this was his first attempt. So that would be a learning experience for those who are still in their first attempts or so. And he is selected for SSC NT, non-technical entry for OTA. So Shaharadh, I'll keep admitting students. Meanwhile, we can start off. So how did the motivation to join defense services come from, and how did it all start in your life?
So I'm from a completely civil background. So there is nobody in even my extended family who's in the army. So for me, it all started as a kid who was watching the Republic Day parade. So I was really fascinated with the uniforms, the way the soldiers carried themselves and all that. That's how the fascination started. But I never really thought I could make a career out of this because I didn't really know how to get into it. It was probably in my second year of college that the actual the thought that actually came to me that okay, this can be something that can be my career, and that is when I started looking for all the opportunities and all that, and yeah, that is when I decided. And by the end of my, let's say, second or the starting of third year, I was pretty sure that engineering or corporate job is not something that I want to do. But the circumstances of my family was such that I needed to find a job immediately. So after my graduation, I did take up a job, and once all those let's say financial constraints that were there in my family were taken care of, I was like, okay, now let's go for my dream. Let's try. Let's give it a try, and then hopefully, luckily, this happened.
Okay, that's great. So please tell us how means after you started off with your dream preparation of your dream job. Before that, was there any gap or something for your just when you focused with your work? Was there that phase of your life wherein there was some gap between you actually trying for the defense services and being focused for it?
Yeah, so in my final year, I didn't really prepare for any exams for the CDS or AFCAT or anything like that. I just focused on my placements. So whatever was required in the placements for the interviews, the aptitude test and all that, I prepared for that. And once I got through to my placement, then that is when I actually thought, okay, right now I have a backup plan. Let's go for let's go for the preparation. And so there was maybe a gap of 2-3 months after my graduation or my final exam. Basically, I did nothing other than preparing for a job. Then I actually started going through the CDS syllabus and then actually preparing. But the let's say lucky part for me was that CDS made the first two papers are English and maths, which was already covered during my placement preparation. So the only other thing remaining was general knowledge, and in that also, because I am from a science background, I had covered. I already knew physics, maths, biology, and chemistry. So I just needed to work on my geography or polity and the current affairs. So after those 3 months, I actually started working on it, and then that is when I just started preparing.
Okay, that's it. This is for some people who are diffident because they have started late. It's not something that you have started late or something. It's just when it has to happen, it will definitely happen. Okay. Now coming to your first attempt preparation or some background, how did you pointed some points regarding you pointed out something regarding your written exam preparation, saying that maths and English was already covered in the aptitude test, current affairs. So since the written exam is due 3rd of September 2022, so what advice will you give the students who are attempting? Okay, thank you for that. Please tell us regarding your attempt of the first day, starting off with the screening process.
Yeah, so I went to Selection Center East Allahabad. I was given 14 SSB board, and on the day of reporting, there was around 70, 80 or 80 people who reported. Um, the first, the screening process started at around 6 a.m. We were all, we are assembled in a hall. They gave us all the instructions, the do's and don'ts. So the main thing in maybe throughout the entire process of SSB is to hear what the assessor is saying. Before each and every test, they'll give you clear instruction as to what you have to do. And as sir keeps on reminding us, even if somebody who would have no idea what the SSB goes for an SSB, they give you enough instructions to actually do the test. So the only thing that I focused on before each test was to clearly listen to what they are saying and basically follow those. It's not, to be honest, I don't know if I'm saying this because I cleared it, but all of those tests, they are not really that hard. It's the maybe the presence of mind maybe that matters. So I listened to those instructions, and the screening process was the OER test was not that hard. If you are somebody who have cleared the written, then you won't find it really difficult. So the main thing in OER is to attempt as many questions as you can. That is what I did. I was able to attempt maybe around 85 to 90% in the first OER, and the second one I completed entirely. And it went when it came to PPDT, as usual, the picture was not at all clear. It was, you could make out a shadowy figure who was doing something, maybe walking, running, or something. So I made a story around this guy who got cleared the SSB and was preparing to join the academy. So he was working on his physicals. He wanted to run this many kilometers in this much time. He worked on it. He achieved it. He went on and joined the academy. That is the story that I made, and the narration was pretty good. I was able to complete it within maybe less than 40 seconds, around 40 seconds, I'd say. My narration was clear. It was, I didn't really stop, or I didn't have to think much, because between your PPT, whenever you write the story and you go for the narration, there is a gap of 10-15 minutes. So what I did was that I tried to remember all the key points in my story, and that really helped. So I didn't really get stuck in between narration. And when it came to the discussion, even though it was a freshers group, it was chaotic. I mean, the assessors, even in the first 3 minutes itself, the assessors asked us to stop and divided us into two groups. Even in those two groups, it was a fish market kind of scene. But the only thing that I focused on was I listened to what others said, because I knew that my narration went well, and my story was it was among one of the common threads. Let's say there were three threads. So what I did was that when the discussion started, I just said, okay, gentlemen, from hearing all your narrations, I'll say there are three common threads that have emerged. One was something along working on the physical capability. The one was for the army wala selection, physical capability, some kind of selection, the army, police, etc., etc. And the other one was someone preparing for athletics, running, or some competition. And the other one was social issues. I don't know how they came up with that idea, but somehow social issues came up. So I said there are three general topics that we have. Let's focus on one of these and go forward. I said that. Then I was completely silent. Then the fish market started. The team got split up, and in my subgroup, only there were, I think, two people who had the same, me and another person who had the same thing as this guy is preparing for something, that kind of story. And the other almost rest 6 people, I guess, was adamant that it has to be a social issue. So we tried to explain that, okay, there's no need to have bring in a social issue in here, because there is no actionable, or there is nothing you can see that relates to a social issue. But they were adamant, and
Did you say that?
Yeah, I said, because you can clearly see there's only one person
in a better position. How people bring social issues.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
go forward.
so both of us tried to explain that no, there is nothing that really points to a social issue here, but they were adamant. And so just so that the group can go to a common conclusion, I said, okay, if you're so adamant that it has to be a social issue, let's go with social issue. I'll agree to that, I said. But I said I clearly don't agree, but because the majority of the group is going with that, okay, we'll go with that. And then the next subgroup started to discuss, and almost the majority of that group wanted to go with my idea. So even though this subgroup had come to a consensus that it will be a social issue, they said no, it has to be something physically related. And then they started discussing on that. And when it came, and after their discussion, the assessor said, okay, let's you guys will have to come to a common story between the both of your group. And then I said, okay, because that group is also saying it has to something related to physical activity. we'll go with that. But then both the social issue wala people from both these groups started saying, no, it has to be a social issue. Um, it has to be something related to education. This guy is running every morning to school. So he grew up, he went on to build schools and yes. And then basically we were not able to conclude anything, but the assessor said, okay, uh, all of you are trying to say that this guy faced some kind of challenge. He's working to solve that issue, and then he basically solves it, and that is how the this thing concluded. We did not, yeah, uh,
Understood.
yeah, that is how the screening went. And after screening, so in my PPDT, I was not really trying to um, let's say put aggressively put forward my points. Whenever I thought that there is something that should be common sense or something along those lines, I said, okay, this seems to be what do you say, common consensus that you can go to, and then I let the group take its course, the discussion take its course. I was pretty, I wouldn't say pretty confident. It's just that I knew that even if the group discussion, I was not able to contribute that much to the group discussion. My OAR and narration
Some
was,
direction to the group, and that's how they were arriving at some consensus, if
yeah.
not the entire thing, but at least some consensus with the direction. Okay, thank you so much. And then next day one's psychology of the conference rounds.
Yeah, psychology test started around 6:30 a.m. in the morning. So I did not prepare for psychology test at all. I didn't even practice once before the test basically. Uh, but I don't know how, but at the time of writing, everything came to me. I was able to attempt all of the VATs, all of the SRTs, and TAT also. I could attempt everything. And self description, I had a basically when you join NFA, you there is a something similar to self description that you write, right? So I had already written that, and I had a discussion. Nehru sir had already reviewed that as well. So I wrote something similar to that only. So I didn't really have to practice it, but I did once go through my think about it before the self description part. And it is better to go with the better to prepare for the self description because you only get 15 minutes to actually think and write about five different points. What do you think about yourself, what your teachers or your employees, your friends, your colleagues, and then what do you want to improve and all that. So it's better to just at least make pointers in your mind beforehand and then go with it. Yeah, so psych tests were pretty good. I was able to attempt almost everything in every test. But the only thing was that in VAT there were two words. I don't remember which exactly, but I had never heard of them before. So basically, what I wrote was that these words, that word is very hard to use, very hard to write a VAT on, and then the other one was this word is not really used in common conversations. So that those were the only two things. Other than that, psych tests were pretty straightforward. I was able to attempt all of them.
Uh, Tell us something regarding GTO task, especially PGT, FGT, which use all the structures that you saw for the first time, and was your what was your approach seeing all this for the first time?
Yeah, in PGT basically, so in PGT there are four different stages, right? In the first stage, and in my group, I guess I was the only one who had never gone for an actual coaching where they actually make you solve GP and all the obstacles. So in my first stage, everyone they basically took the plank, balapati, everything, and then they went forward. I was clueless. I didn't know. I didn't really know what to do because okay, I was so I knew that these guys know what to do. So I was like, okay, at least in the first two stages, I'll observe them. I'll learn as much as I can, and then in the last two stages, I'll try to what do you say contribute. But I was not just standing there. Whenever somebody was trying to do something, I'll help them. So if somebody was trying to somebody said that okay, let's put the plank here and tie the rope here, I just take the rope, I'll tie the rope, I'll hold on to the plank, I'll help someone cross, or if they wanted someone to cross, I'll go forward and do it. So that is what I did at least in the first two stages. But by that time I kind of had an idea, okay, the plank works. So basically in the plank you put it somewhere, you find somewhere to support it and a way to balance it. That is how the plank works. In every other case, it is some permutation or combination of this. So and basically the balli can be used as a support, and the rope is basically tying stuff. So by the time the second stage was over, I kind of had an idea of what to do, and then I started contributing ideas. And more than contributing ideas, so basically what happened was that almost every so my GTO group was really a very good group of people. They were all fantastic. I thought almost every one of them would get recommended. But so because of that, all of them had very different kinds of ideas, right? All of them were contributing ideas. So what I did was that, okay, when there was a conflict or when there was multiple ideas for the same structure, I'd say, okay, let's try this first. If that doesn't work, let's go to the second one, and then if that doesn't work, let's go to the third one. So that was basically my PGT and SGT. I did give some ideas, but most of the time I was just saying, okay, this idea seems good, let's try it, and then I helped in implementing it. That is how the PGT and SGT went. HGT, I was able to contribute more because the number of people were less, and I by that time I had some idea of how to do all the GTO tasks. Uh, so yeah, and I had only seen these things in I saw maybe one or two YouTube videos, but that kind of gives you an idea. So for me, looking back, I'll say if I had maybe watched a few more videos, I might have gotten ideas beforehand itself, before in the first stage itself. But I'd say it didn't really matter that much, because you obviously learn. By the time you see one or two people solving one or two obstacles, you learn. Okay, these are the kind of structures that you get. That there are these are the kind of helping materials you have. This is the permutation, the combination you can make out of it. So that is how the PGT and HGT went. And in GTO, after PGT, HGT, I guess there was they started off with GP and group discussion.
Group discussion, that also you can cover GP, GD, lecture 8, that part.
Yeah. So it started off with group discussion. In group discussion, we had two topics. The first group discussion was about in the current scenario, in the current geopolitical scenario, who will be the better ally for India, US, Russia, and then Japan and France, I guess. So I basically started off by saying, so I was able to initiate the conversation. The only point that I made was that in geopolitics there are no friends and enemies, there are only shared interests. So geopolitics is something that I've been following for a long time. So I kind of knew, okay, this is something that I can talk on. So this is the first point that I made. It's kind of like a summarized point, that there are no friends and enemies in geopolitics. There are only shared interests, and right now our interests are are more aligned with the West than, let's say, with Russia right now, because of the China-Russia situation and all that. And then the different people were putting forward different opinions. There were a lot of heated moments, let's say. So the after this point, I basically stuck to the point that you are not allied with anyone. You are standing in your own ground. Uh, India has its own position in the global order, and whoever, it doesn't really matter which block they come from, but whichever country is allied more with our interest in that present scenario, we ally with them. If it's Russia during for buying cheaper gas for our people, then that is what we do. If it's allying with the West to counter China, then that is what we do. We are not following one camp or the other. This is not a cold war. This shouldn't be a cold war situation where we choose between two camps. We are our own camp. Whatever allies, whatever in whichever countries have shared interest with us, we ally with them. That is basically the point that I made in the entire group discussion. And the second one was,
you will share your point of view. Please tell us your resources for all this. What did you refer?
So basically in the NFA group itself, we keep on sharing these editorials, right? So that is basically what I refer to. And
also provides people.
Yeah. And other than that, I follow a lot of let's say geopolitical analysts on Twitter. I don't participate in those debate in those conversations, because Twitter is not exactly a peaceful platform, but there are sane voices there also. I followed them. That is where I get most of my analysis. And then in YouTube also, there is a channel called, I'm sure everyone is aware of, the Print. So the cut the clutter is something that cut the clutter and national interest is something that I follow. And then there is Beyond. most of the videos coming out of Viona make sense. Their Gravitas, there's a series called Gravitas, which is kind of good. So these are the I didn't really actively follow any of this. I had an interest in geopolitics, so I've been following geopolitics for quite some time. So these became part of my daily life. So yeah, these were let's say the kind of resources that I used. Yeah, and group discussion. The second part was which, in your opinion, is affecting our youth in a bad way. Social media, drugs, opposite sex. So I said I spoke that it is more of social media because that is what glorifies the usage of drugs or whatever it is that is bad. And I didn't really say that social media is the issue. I just said social media is kind of like a tool. Any other tool, it can be used for the good things and bad things, but people are generally more attracted towards the bad things and good things easily, more easily. Um, so that was almost everyone was aligned on social media, so that group discussion was smooth. Um, and then the GP happened. So in GP, I'd say GP was my worst part of my SSP because uh, so basically the GTO said that you'll have 15 minutes to write your story, write your plan. So I made a mental plan. I had a mental plan after the all the briefing was done. I had made a mental plan. So there was this format that was shared in the NFA group where you write down okay, which is the order of priority, the resources, the time taken, and what is the action that you do. I was able to write that down, but I didn't. I was not able to let's say expand on anything. I just wrote okay, situation one, two resources will go. This much time will be taken. This is what they'll do.
But Nehru sir also asked people to be concise with the time constraints that we
Yeah,
have.
they do, but
No
I
need
was
of
not able to.
expanding anything.
So the thing was that there were four situations. I was not able to complete all four. I wrote
Okay.
till let's say first there were two situations where the life was in threat. So my situation was that uh, we are a group of people. You went for some picnic. You came back to a dhaba. You're eating. Uh, Suddenly a bus conductor comes and says that the bus with a bunch of school kids are stuck on a railway track. At the same time, a small kid falls into a dry well. At the same time, somebody snatches the jewelry of someone from that dhaba and runs away to a village. They are planning to sell it off at this particular time. And the other thing was that we went to a picnic because of to do some project, some kind of project. So there was this camera that we used to record everything that we forgot in that picnic area. So these were the four different situations. I was able to completely write all the priority wala issues, the stuff where the life was in danger. For the other things, for the third one, I wrote that is the third priority. These many people will go. The rest, I couldn't really write anything. But the thing was that during the narration, I was able to. So there was no narration. There was directly the group discussions. In the group discussion, I was able to give certain points. So the only I would say the major point that I made was so when people were saying discussing on how to solve the school bus wala issue. So it was clearly written in the question that it was an electrical problem with the bus. So people were saying, okay, we'll go there, we'll fix it, and then we'll drive it forward. So basically, what I said was, it is an electrical problem. There's nothing wrong with the mechanical parts of the engine. You just put it in neutral, you push it off. People were saying, we'll fix it and then drive it away. So this is the only point that I made, and then most people had missed it in my group, and they said, okay, this is a good point. We'll take it into consideration. Um, and so basically the guideline is to follow logic. Whenever something doesn't make sense, you point it out and say, okay, this doesn't make sense because of this. And most luckily for me, at least my group members were really let's say they had common sense. So whenever you point something out, they were not taking it personally. They were like, oh, okay, this makes sense, we'll take that into consideration. And that is how the discussion went. We came to a common concessions, and then we recommended a person to narrate it. um, that is how the GP went. And for the lecturate, um, I was I was given the topics were fiscal deficit, moral policing, uh, Indian systems of medicine, and some other my hobbies or something like that. So I chose. I first thought of speaking on moral policing, but I didn't really think there was much to be said about moral policing. It's just that okay, it's bad, don't do it. So if I was honestly going to speak on it, that's what I would have said. It's bad, don't do it. So I chose. I then switched to Indian systems of medicine, and for me, I think rather than okay, there should be content that there should be good content that you say, but more importantly, it's how you structure that in those 3 minutes, because you only get 3 minutes and you have 3 minutes to narrate it. So so what I did was I structured it into introduction, um, not introduction, which basically had the history also, and then what is happening now, what is my opinion on it, what is the pros and cons, and what is my conclusion. Or I guess I switched. I first said pros and cons, my observation, and then conclusion. So if you give like 30-40 seconds for each of them, 3 minutes will be covered. So I didn't really know that much about Indian systems of medicine. I had a pretty good idea of okay, Ayurveda, it originated let's say 1,000 years back. Uh, uh, Surgery was first done in Ayurveda, and the rest of the things that I said was common observations. Ayurveda is something that you use for a long-term treatment. Let's say something, some physical ailment, some kind of injury that you have. For that kind of thing, you use Ayurveda, and modern medicine you use for immediate interventions, surgeries, or something that is very serious. You use that for you use modern medicine for that. So that is the kind of observations that I made. And then my conclusion was that you decide on which system to go forward based on your need. And then yeah, that is basically how I concluded it. So rather than okay, the content is important, but it's how you structure that content in those 3 minutes that really matters. So if you're trying to cover everything about that topic in those 3 minutes, if you're trying to think about everything, by the time you come to talk, you will be confused. So rather than that, pick on structure, decide on a structure first, and then fill that structure. That is what I'd say is would work better. Um, yeah, that is how the lecture went. So yeah, that's how the four of the speaking activities went.
Tell us about your individual obstacles, command tasks, and remaining part, like the snake race and all of the GTOs tasks.
So individual obstacles. So I was given just number one in my GTO group, and just before our GTO task, it was raining heavily. So they almost said that okay, we'll do it in the afternoon, but then they said okay, let's go forward and we'll do it. So what happened was in the rope. So there's a Tarzan swing. I did the balancing part first. So there's a zigzag wala thing. No? I did that first so that I'm not out of breath when I'm doing it. Okay, so before all of this, basically the GTO takes you to through all the obstacles and tells you okay what to do in that. So what is better is that you know what you're good at. If you know you have upper body strength, you know you'll be good at the arm. The rope wala obstacles. If you know you are fast, if you know you're good at running, jumping, and all that, there are those jumping, running wala obstacles, and then you plan your course. You say okay, this. You also know that there are n number of points for n number of obstacles. You plan it accordingly. Okay, this is the first one I'll do. What I'll do is what I'll suggest is go it in the descending order of points, whichever has the most number of points, and whichever is the one that you are able to you are confident that you're going to be able to attend, you go for that first. So I just did the zigzag because I knew that once you run around and you're out of breath, you'll not be able to balance properly. So I did that first, and then I went for Tarzan swing. It had I think 7 points something, and it was also the closest one to the zigzag wala thing. But the thing was that the rope was very slippery because of the rain. I swung, but I slipped, and then I had to repeat again. So that lost time meant that I could only cover around 10. Yeah, no, not even 10. There were 10 obstacles. I could cover only 9 obstacles. So it was not that bad, but I was taking it slow. I knew that everything was slippery. I think I could have the kind of fitness that I have right now. I would have been able to repeat it, but because I was taking it slow, I covered around 9. Yeah, 9 obstacles. That is how the individual obstacles went, and then the command task. My command task was not that difficult at first, at least. It was start line to finish line while this thing. But the GTO kept on changing the rules. So once I started solving, I solved one approach, and then he said, "Okay, you can't. This is blue. You can't use it anymore." Uh, he changed the rules like 2-3 times. So and I was not able to use that approach at all. I had to use a separate approach, and in that approach, I was stuck. And he was saying, "Okay, only 1 minute left. You still have 3 more obstacles to close. You have given idea right now, Commander." And he was putting pressure. So basically, I had called one of the best, two of the best guys in my GTO group. They were the ones who were giving a lot of ideas. They had a lot of ways to implement it. They knew all the rope tying, the knots, and all that. So I asked them, gentlemen, do you have any ideas? And one of them searched an idea. I implemented it, and I was able to cross the next two obstacles. So that is how the command task went. And then yeah, that is how the command task went. And then it was the full group task, which was pretty straightforward. There was one obstacle that you had to plank. I did it and then went forward. Yeah, so that is how the GTO went. It was, I would say, it was average. I could have performed better, but it was okay.
So coming to your interview part.
My interview basically happened on the same day as psychology test. So after the psych test was done, we were taken to a waiting room. So I was test number one. So basically the NCO came and he said, okay, some of your interviews will happen today. Test number one, your interview will be in 2 minutes. And then he said, look at the to that screen where they call the test numbers. You'll whenever the number comes, you have to go. And as he was saying it, test number one flashed on it. I went. I didn't even have time to process anything. I went for the interview. But the interview was very smooth. It went on for maybe about an hour, 50 minutes, almost 50 minutes. It was very smooth. He made me comfortable. So after the psych test, I didn't even have a gap to get a glass of water. So there was a glass of water there. I said, sir, can I drink some water? It's like, okay, didn't you drink it during your waiting time? Sir, I didn't get any time to wait. Uh, so okay, he said, please make yourself comfortable. He started off with the basic questions. And then where are you from, which attempt is this, why did you want to join the army? And then he said, okay, now we'll go to the serious questions, we'll start off the interview. And then he started with the series of questions about your education. Tell me about your education from 10th, 12th, your achievements, your marks, the extracurricular activities, your favorite teacher, your favorite subject, the teacher that you didn't like, that subject that you didn't like, the friends that you had, and that series of questions. I was able to answer it. Then he so so and then the cross questioning happened. So I had said physics is my favorite subject, and my physics teacher was my favorite teacher. And he said, why is she your favorite teacher? So I said, okay, she never used to teach us anything. She used to ask questions, and she'd lead us to the answer rather than her saying the theories out loud. That is what something I liked. And then about the friends, I said I had a different circle. So I was in a lot of I was part of a lot of activities during my school as well as college. So I had different circles of friends for different who did different kind of activities. So he kept on asking, okay, who is your closest friend? So I said, I don't have a who is your best friend? That I don't have one best friend. I have a group of best friends. But he kept on asking, okay, name me two people. I said, sir, I won't be able to do that. They're all equal to me. And then he said, okay, so you get 3 free tickets to go to Maldives. Who will you take along with you? I said, okay, sir, I named two people. So he said, why did you choose that? So I said, sir, one of them travels a lot, so he'll be able to guide me when we go abroad, and the other person loves beaches, and Maldives has a lot of beaches, so I'll take her along with me. That is what I said. That was the initial series of questions. And then he basically went to the PIQ. Whatever was written in the PIQ, he started cross questioning it. So cross questioning it. So I had said that I used to do long jump and sprints during my college days. I went for my university athletics and all that. So he started questioning about the technical stuff of it. Okay, what kind of jump do you use? Do you hang? Do you sail? So those are terms used in long jump. And then he asked me, why did you stop triple jump and transition to a long jump? So I said, so I developed an injury in my left leg, so I was not able to continue forward. And also I was part of my cricket team, and because I'm a fast bowler, there was a lot of stress on my left leg, and I had to take that stress off. So I transitioned to long jump. Um, then in between, he asked me a lot of math questions. He was like, I was talking about long jump, and suddenly he asked, okay, how many liters of water will it take to fill up this hoop? And then he was like, so I said I did 100-meter sprints. He asked me, what is your best time, and what is the time difference between your best time and the world record? Um, and then the most interesting question was, I had written in my interest, I had written military aviation. So he asked me, do you know which are the two recent inductions that happened into the armed forces? So I said, okay, the Chinook and the Apaches. So he asked me, but those they don't look similar, right? What is the difference? And what is the principle that they use to fly basically? I said Apache has only one main rotor and a tail rotor. Chinook has two main rotors. So he said, okay, but the principle that they use is the same. So why is the configuration different? And how does the Chinooks how is the configuration different? And how do they stay in the air? So I told them, okay, Apache uses the main rotor to produce lift and the tail rotor to balance the counter force that you have from the rotor. And he said, but the Chinook has two main rotors. How does it work for it? I, I was not exactly sure of that answer, so I had to think a bit. So he told me, okay, you said physics is your favorite subject and you're an engineer. So explain it to me in a physics kind of way or as an engineer would explain it. So basically what I told them was, so every time the rotor passes, it'll create a moment of torque, and that torque will have a reaction from the main body of the helicopter also. So what I guess will happen is that when the first every time the first rotor produces a torque, the second rotor will produce a torque in the opposite direction, and those moments will get cancelled every time, and that is how it balances the rotation. Is what I said. He said, okay, does that make sense to you? No, sir, it makes sense to me. Okay, it makes sense to me as well. Let's move forward. So that was an interesting question. That was an interesting question. Um, so other than that, he started asking about the family. Who are in your family? Who's the closest one to you? Who do you approach when you have a problem? What is the one quality that you don't like about your parents? Each of them. And then what is the one thing that your friends and your family would want you to improve? Um, yeah, these kind of questions were there, and I've answered them honestly. I said, okay, my father is abroad. He's working in Bahrain. So I said, because my mother is physically closest to me, that is who I go to most of the time. She's physically closest to me. I didn't say uh, personally closest. I said physically she's closest to me. And I said for problems, it depends on what kind of problem it is. It is if it's something related to career or something along those lines, I'll talk to my father. And I said after college or after let's say the third year of college, I didn't really go to anyone with my problems. I used to solve them on my own because I know that my father is far away. I don't even if I tell problem to him, he'll get unnecessarily worried and won't be able to do anything. So I used to solve my own problems. Um, and then what is the one bad quality? I said I don't. My parents don't have any bad qualities. He said, how can it be possible? Every being has a bad quality. So I said, so these are my parents. I don't care if they have any. If you talk to them, you might be able to figure out a bad quality. But for me, they are perfect. They don't have any bad qualities. So he said, okay. And Basically in between, he also asked me why I chose electric. So there was a lot of I had written that I had done my electrical engineering. So he asked me, why did you choose electrical engineering? I said, sir, I didn't choose. I got this kind of rank in my engineering entrance exam, and accordingly I got. I was only looking for a. So I told him my main aim was to get a job after my graduation. A job was my primary aim. So what I did was in the priority order that you give during your admissions, I gave the colleges which had the best placements. I didn't really care which branch I got because I knew that anyway you'll have to study. It doesn't really matter. And I didn't really have any particular preference also. So I told him I gave the colleges which had the best placements, and in my college, the branch that I could get with my rank was electrical engineering. So I took it up. So he asked me, do you like it? I said, I don't really have any particular preference to it, but I perform okay. My academics are okay. So he asked me, okay, let's ask. I didn't know this guy was from EME. So he started asking me electrical questions. He was like, okay, what is the difference between he started asking me what is the difference of the voltage between the voltage of the electricity that you get in your switchboard, your common post wala line, and the bigger post that you have. I told them, okay, the no. He asked me what is the common thing between each three of these things and what is the different thing. So I told them frequency is the one that remains the same. It's 50 hertz, and then the voltage changes. So he asked me, is it always 50 hertz? I said, no, sir. It's a range. It varies between 49.5 and 50.5. That is what the distribution companies what they have to maintain. So they are he similar to that. He asked me a lot of electrical questions, and it was almost to a point that I knew I wouldn't be able to answer more questions. I said, sir, if you ask me more questions, I wouldn't be able to answer because if I had to be an electrical engineer, I would be here. Um, so he asked me, okay, so if you're not that confident in electrical engineering, why didn't you take it up? So I said, sir, like I said, I didn't really take it up. This is the best that I could get with my rank and to have admission at college. So he was like, okay, if you had a choice, which one would you have taken? I said, sir, maybe mechanical engineering. He asked me why. So I said, in plus one and plus two in physics, your plus one wala physics basically relates more to mechanical engineering, and plus two wala physics relates more to electrical engineering. So I said I like the plus one wala subject, so I took it up. Uh, I thought he would ask me more questions on plus one physics, but he didn't. He basically he then basically asked me about the army. He asked me why you want to join. I said the same thing. I was always fascinated with the army, and he said, and then what did he ask? About he asked me, what do you know about the army? What are the various arms in the army? Which one do you want to go into? And he said, I said there are three kinds of arms: the combat arms, the combat support arms, and support arms. And I said I don't have any preference of choice of arms right now. I'll choose in the academy. He said, oh, you're confident of getting recommended? I said yes. So did you think that you will get screened in? So I said, sir, if I didn't think that I'd get recommended, then I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't come here because I'd be wasting my time and your time also. So he said, oh, okay. Uh, so
Forward.
yeah, so yeah, that is how my interview went. I don't know how this went. For me, it was a pretty fun experience. It was like having a conversation with a friend. He asked me a lot of counter questions. He kept on asking for let's say details and stuff. But it was a fun experience. I really person interview was the best experience of my SSB basically.
Okay. Please tell us how a long jump helped you. Long jump or
Yeah. So
extra time. Huh?
so not even not even long jump. Even if you do any kind of extracurricular activities, right? So what happens is that till the time you're in school, there is a set timetable for you. You'll know, okay, from this 10 a.m. to 11:30 will be physics, 11:30 to 12 will be physical training. I'll go for that. I'll play. I'll come back. So everything is laid out for you, right? But by the time you get to college, the more number of extracurricular activities you are a part of, the harder it is for you to manage your time, because they don't care if you go to class. So the athletics coach won't care if you go to class. The professor won't care if you are part of the college team. He'll keep on delivering his lecture, right? So you will have to figure out, okay, how do I balance everything? So I was part of my cricket team. I was part of my athletics team. I was part of my so there's a group called IEEE. It's a electrical engineers organization. I was part of that. I was part of my placement cell, and also I had to balance my academics. So what this does is that either you'll sing or you'll swim. There's that kind of situation where you have to manage your own time. You know that if you give uh, more preference to one thing, the other things will go down. So what this helps is uh, it basically makes you more competent. It makes you understand how to manage your time. It helps you understand how, okay, you have a specific amount of energy you have in a day. How do I break it up? How do I give it to different things? So not really long jump. Okay, long jump helped me in my individual obstacles where they were jumping off the screen and all that. I was able to do it without even breaking a sweat. It also, being part of all these physical activities, it makes you more it helps build your stamina. Athletics and cricket is basically two things that where you need a lot of stamina. So that also carries forward. um, but more importantly for me, it helps you how to uh, balance your life, how to give your time to different things, how to give your time and energy to different things, and how to prioritize, in what order to prioritize at what time. So yeah, that is how extracurricular activities help. Uh, it's always good to have at least one thing that you do out of interest, or one thing that where you're doing it for your own sake. Yeah.
That's it. That's motivating. Please tell us how job helped you to gain confidence even during your preparation and your SSPs.
Yeah, so
How have you?
I work in a really fast paced startup. So I work in a company called Upgrad. It is an online higher education startup, and it has been growing tremendously over the past 6 to 8 months. So the environment that I work in is a really high pressure environment where there are a lot of stakes. Uh, but somehow, I also, so what I basically do is program management is basically similar to project management, where you have n number of resources, you have n number of projects, you have X number of deadlines. You basically split up the resources into different projects, and you make sure that all of them are going smoothly. That is what I do. So that kind of working in that high pressure kind of environment, it makes you calm. It makes you understand how to deal with pressure. And this also comes from the sports background. Also, it also contributes to this. But having a job, working with other people, talking to other people, solve having issues. So whenever you are working in a cross function team, you'll have differences of opinion with different people and different teams. How you solve that, all this contributes to making you more competent. So whenever, so like I said, whenever the in the group discussions there was a heated moment, I was already exposed to that kind of environment. I knew, okay, this is what you look for in that situation, and this is how you solve it. So I had that experience, and I'll say my job was a very big contributing factor to my success also.
This is for those who wish to take a gap or so. As Nehru sir always points out, a job provides you ample opportunities for problem solving. This is a practical example of it. Please refer to our previous videos as well, what his perspective is. Acha. Coming now to your conference round. Please tell us conference.
Yeah. So my conference, I was made to wait for around 20 minutes. Uh, so uh, so they had their break also in between. So they were having their tea break also, but I waited for around 20 minutes in total. And my conference was fun. So the deputy president took my interview. He was a colonel. He's the one who took my interview. The president was a brigadier. So when I entered the brigade, I greeted everyone. The brigadier was like, "Okay, you're Shaharadh." And then he looked me up and down. He didn't ask me to sit. For about 2 minutes, I just stood there. He didn't ask me to sit. So then I asked, "Sir, may I sit?" Ha ha, you may sit, you may sit. And then he started grilling me. He's like, "Okay, where are you from?" "Bangalore." "How did you come?" "By flight." "Okay, sir." And then he was like, "Okay, imagine the situation. You're in the airport. You're sitting in the lobbying area. You have checked in and everything. You're waiting in the lobby. And there's a person, there's this big 6 foot tall Punjabi guy, well-built Punjabi guy who's sitting next to you, and he's coughing, sneezing, and he's visibly sick. You know that you have your SSP, you are going for SSP, and you know that you won't be able to attempt it if you get sick. What will you do in the situation? So I said, "Sir, I'll take all the precautions from my side. I'll wear my mask, I wear my face mask, face shield, and then I'll tell him, please maintain a distance. I'll maintain my own distance, and I'll tell him to mask up or use the facial or whatever." He said, "He's a tall Punjabi, well-built guy. Why would he listen to you? He'll say fuck off. He'll say bugger off." Uh, so I said, "Sir, in that case, I'll again ask him. I'll explain the situation to him. If not, I'll go to the authorities and I'll go to the authorities and report him." So he said, "You're in the lobby. There is no airline wala people. So who will you go talk to?" I said, "In every airport there is a floor manager and there's also security people. I'll just go and tell them." Okay. Then he changed the situation. He was like, "Okay, now you realize that he has a family with him. There are around six more people who are also sick. What will you do? What will you do then?" I said, "Sir, I'll the same thing. I'll ask them to take their own precautions and I'll distance myself." So he said, "Will you?" Then he asked me, "Will you allow? Will you?" So okay, he said, "Okay, you'll go complain to the authorities." And then they go talk to the person, this family, and they come. The airline people come and tell you that okay, there the man, his mother died and he's going for the last funeral. He'll only be able to for the last rites. He's going for his last rites. So the airline tell you that if you tell them that you don't want them to board, they won't allow you to board. But if you say yes, they allow them to board." So I said, so he asked me, "What will you do? What will you tell them?" I said, "Sir, I'll allow them to board." "But then, sir, why are you so irresponsible? Don't you want to attend the SSB? Don't you know that you won't be allowed in if you are sick?" I said, "Sir, my SSB is not as important as a person seeing their mother for the last time. So I'll take all the precautions from my side, and if I get sick, I get sick." So he said, "Okay, since you were so irresponsible, now you are in Allahabad. You have to report to the gate at 6 a.m. But now you're sick. what will you do? I said, sir, I'll come to the gate. I'll just say, okay, this is the situation. I have this the symptoms. No, I first I said I'll ask for a change of date. He's like, okay, your flight landed at 12 a.m. in the night. Who are you going to speak to? Who's going to change your name? Nobody's sitting in the boat to change your name, change your date at 12 a.m. in the morning. He said, sir, okay, sir, then I'll come to the gate and I'll explain. Okay, this is the situation. What should I do? Said, who's going to be waiting at your gate? Nobody's going to wait at the gate. Who are you going to report to? I said, sir, when I came, there were two people checking all the documents. I'll just go to them separately and tell them this is the situation. What should I do? Okay, and then he told me, okay, they'll tell you to get tested, and then you turned out to be positive. Now what will you do? So I said, sir, I'll do. So I said, sir, I don't know how it happens in UP, but in Kerala, when you get tested, the government will call you. The health department will call you and ask you, okay, do you have a place to isolate yourself, or if not, they'll give you institutional quarantine. So I said, if they give me a place, I'll go there. If not, I'll book a hotel and then stay there for 7 days. Okay, so you're miss SSB. Said, sir, I'll miss my SSB. So don't you want to get selected, sir? He said, I want to get selected. I come for the next attempt. He said, acha, theek hai. Good. You may leave. That is how my conference went. So it went for about 15 minutes, I'd say. It was different kind of situations where he wanted me to react.
Okay. Overall, how did the first interaction with Nehru sir help you, and how did it all transpire to make a roadmap and go ahead?
Yeah. So I interacted with Nehru. So I've been following Nehru sir since around 2017 when he started writing in Quora. Also, I've been following him for a long time. So before even interacting with him, I knew what is the kind of advice that he'll give, what is the kind of person that he is, and all that. So I enrolled in the program because that point was a really low point in my life. So it was after the lockdown. So during the lockdown, I had to get a surgery also done. After which I had to take quite a bit of bed rest. I had gained a lot of weight during that time, and also I missed a lot of placement opportunities in my college also because of this. And there was a situation during my placements also where I chose one company. I had offers from two companies. One was Deloitte and one was the startup where I got a product based role. I wanted to go to the startup, so I declined the offer from Deloitte. But at the last moment of joining, like 2 days before the joining, this company called me up and they said, okay, there is a document that you have to sign and send it back to us. So I just casually read through the document and said, okay, you have to stay for 2 years or give us the 3 lakhs if you leave. So the thing was that during the selection process, there were 7 rounds of interviews, but they never told me there is this thing. So I was like, okay, if you're not straightforward with me even before I started working with you, you won't be during the working period also. So I said, I'm not going to join you. So I was at a situation where I had no job. Everyone else in my class was doing already had placements. They were already started working. I denied the one good offer that I had, and the offer that I wanted to go for. Now I don't have
Is
that.
there kind of regret that you have, or is that okay with that?
No, I like people who are honest, who are straightforward. If you are double dealing under the deck, see, I didn't really care if they wanted me to stay for 2 years, because that is a role that I really wanted to work in, and I was not going anywhere for 2 years other than maybe try for my SSBs. So if they had said it straight up that, okay, this is the terms, if you accept it, you may sit for the interviews, I would have I would have went ahead with the interviews. But the thing is that I had 7 rounds of interview with them. I had even interacted with their CEO. Even at that stage, they didn't tell me, okay, this is that there's a clause like this. If they were straightforward with me, I wouldn't have cared. But since they were not, I was not going to work with them. I don't want to deal with such kind of people. So no, that is not a regret for me. I would have, even now looking back, I would have made the same decision. So yeah, that is the time when I contacted Nehru sir. I didn't really know what to do. So he told me, okay, you get a job, doesn't matter whatever it is. He basically gave me a roadmap. He interacted with me. My physical fitness, even though I've always been active in those 2 years of lockdown, my physical fitness went for a toss. And because of the surgery also, I was completely bedridden for about 2.5, 3 months. So I had gained around 14 kgs of weight. I was 84 kilos back then. Uh, and that, so I'm someone who draws confidence from my physical fitness also. I've always been active, so that has always been a part of my life. So my conference also went for a toss. So this is basically what I told Nehru sir also. Sir, I basically told him, sir, if it was this situation was 1.5 years back when I was in college, I wouldn't even have interacted with you. I would have directly gone for my SSB because I knew I was competent enough. But right now I have no clue where I am. I don't know what to do. Please tell me what to do. So he basically gave me a roadmap. He told me, okay, get a job first. Doesn't matter what it is, get a job. Um, and then he told me, okay, work on a physical fitness. Because you have done this before, you know what to do. Just work on it gradually, and it'll come. So that is what I did for the. So this is I interacted with him in September last. I think it was around 28th of September 2021. I got a job within 10 days in Upgrad. I basically applied there. And then I started working on my physical fitness. I gradually started working out. I was not able to run because I knew that if I ran with that kind of body weight, my legs wouldn't be able to support it, and I would have. So I already have a history of stress fractures in my left leg because of my triple jumps and long jumps and basically cricket, fast bowling. So I knew that I shouldn't start running then. So I did a different kind of exercises, different kinds of workouts, and gradually started bringing my weight down. And right now I'm 68 kilos. I'm where I used to be in college. And basically, this is the two things that he told me. I followed it regularly, and basically he told me to read the book. I read it. Cover to cover 2 times. That is the only preparation, to be honest, that I did for the SSP. And even during my interviews, when the interviewer asked me how did you prepare, this is the only thing I said. He said, okay, there is this person called Col Nehru. I like his teachings very much. He always says, if you are competent in your day-to-day life, SSB is just a subset of your life, and so you'll pass in your SSB also. So I said, sir, what I did is I made sure that I am competent in my job. I am competent in my day-to-day life. That is how I prepared. No, there is no extra effort that I took. So yeah.
You said that in conference, we will have perhaps a separate session. 14 kgs is not less. People are trying to reduce 5 kgs, 10 kgs. Okay. I give it now to Nehru sir.
Yeah, Shaharadh, congratulations. So finally things have, you had a low point in life. Now things are moving up. So that's very, very good. It's very nice to see you cheerful and confident. You're always overall a competent person, responsible person for your family. And you had the capabilities. You're an athlete, you're clear-headed. So you should have got selected in any case. That's not a big deal. I will ask you some questions which people keep asking me, and they pester me with those questions. I'll find your answers quite amusing. तो पहले जब आप पहुंचे होगे वहां पर, you conversant with Hindi also ना reasonably.
Yes sir. I can understand it.
हाँ, तो जब आप पहुंचे होगे वहां पर, तो बात कर रहे होंगे कोचिंग एकेडमीज के नुक्ते ना, सबके अलग अलग होंगे ना. So, what were the popular, SSB नुक्ता कि ये एक तो इलाहाबाद रिजेक्शन सेंटर है, यहाँ पर क्या करना है and all that, and then they would have found कि यार ये No Frills Academy वाले का तो कुछ उसमें नहीं, not in sync with that. So, what was this gupshup? What you gathered from all this?
Sir, so I'll tell you the major point of contention. So it was before my psych test. There were a lot of people who were practicing psych tests, and I was basically reading a book. So there was this guy who kept on practicing psych tests. He had basically 2 copies full of answers. So he was asking me, why are you not doing anything? I don't know. It's psych test. If I have it in me, I'll write it. If not, okay, I'm not fit for selection. What else? So there were also some people who knew, who were repeaters in the other GTO group, but repeaters who knew, okay, there's no point in doing all this. Just follow whatever they are saying, you will get through. There were also that kind of people who actually realized, okay, it doesn't really make sense to do that. There were people who are also following it. I guess it is a problem of lack of awareness. I guess people want to get selected, obviously, and they say, okay, this is the best source that I have. I'll follow it to the hilt. I won't apply my own mind. So I think it's a general problem also that people don't really apply their own mind when they face a solution. They are like, okay, this is what everyone is doing, I'll do that. If it works out, it works out. If not, I'll go for the second best option. So this was the main thing that I observed, and the other thing was in GP, not in GP, sorry, in GTO tasks, where all of them they had already seen all these obstacles. They were going forward. They already knew. They were saying, okay, fulcrum it here, fix it here. Yes, I didn't even know what to call these things. So yes, there are misconceptions. There are people who realize it also. So you can say that there are two kinds of people: people who apply their own mind and people who don't. People who apply their own mind, even if they are coached, they'll know, okay, if this makes sense, I'll do it. If it doesn't make sense, I won't do it. So yeah, these are the kind of people you'll see in SSBs.
So you went tilted towards the people who use their own mind, or you felt that the people who are using the minds of the coaching academies are making more sense?
Yes, sir. You can say that.
No, what made more sense to you?
So that is how you should. My funda in life is that is what you should do. So there may be people who did it before you. There may be people in the same situation, but if it doesn't make sense to you, you shouldn't do it. That is how you should live. Okay, there are some certain consequences of that also that you have to deal with. But then if you are sure of something, you do it. You back it up to the hilt.
अच्छा, WAT के बारे में बड़ा नुक्ता होता है, कि ये कुड नहीं लिखना, शुड नहीं लिखना, एंड नेगेटिव सेंटेंस नहीं बनाना एंड ऑल दैट. तो वो क्या बातचीत कर रहे थे उसके बारे में?
Yeah, this is also something that I heard. You have to, every situation has to be positive, even if it's negative, you have to somehow make it positive. Case of I had never really, the only source of information that I had was your book, where it was written that whatever is coming to your mind first, you write it down, and that is exactly what the psychologist also said. He said, okay, it doesn't matter if you don't have a strong grasp of English. Also, it doesn't matter if your grammar is poor. You just write whatever comes to your mind first. That is what I did. So I don't exactly remember what I wrote down, but these are day-to-day words that you use. And every time you read something will click in your mind. So I was not focused on beautifying it. I was like, okay, this is the first thing that I came to my mind. I'll write it down. Let the psychologist assess whatever he makes of it. If I make his job difficult, that is his problem, not mine. So yeah, WAT, I didn't really think anything. The only conscious thought that I had during my entire psychology test was to keep my mind blank. Don't think about anything. Whatever comes, whatever reaction you have, write it down. And this saves a lot of time also. So basically, you see that word for 5 seconds, you have 30 seconds. By the time you think, it's almost 15 seconds. You have 15 seconds to write it down also. So what I did was that first part I cut down. I was not thinking anything. I saw the word. Even when the word was still on the screen, I started writing. And I was able to complete. That is how I think I was able to complete everything. The same goes for SRT also. Don't think about making a situation positive, you being the hero. Imagine yourself in that situation in your day-to-day life. If that happens, what will you do? Write it down. Okay, you have to make it concise. You have to make it all round efficient and all that. The solution has to be complete and all that. That is there. But if you are faced with a situation, you won't leave it midway also, right? In real life also, you will try to solve it pura. So that is what I did. That is the only funda that I had during psych test.
फर्स्ट क्लास. अच्छा, अब जीडी में क्या होता है ना, देयर आर 3 लीड्स. तो अब 3 लीड में से अब आपने एक लीड लिया, उसी पे बात किया या लीड शिफ्ट भी की? एक जीडीओ ने क्या इंस्ट्रक्शन दिए थे?
He was like, okay, he didn't even say these are leads. He said, so my thing was, who should India align with in the current situation, global situation? Russia, US, Japan, and France. He just said this. He didn't say these were leads and all that. So whatever I have understood by following geopolitics all this while is whatever basically I said. There are no friends and enemies in geopolitics. We have common interests. That is the opening line that I said. And I was not really talking about Russia or specifically about any country. I was just talking about India. This is the stance that India should take. That is what. And he had GTO ka clear instructions were that you're a group of friends having a conversation. So do have a conversation among your group, among your friends is what he said. And in your friends, I don't think you'll be like, okay, this is the one thing that I'll stick.
करेक्ट. तो लीड का कोई रिस्ट्रिक्शन नहीं था ऐसा. तो बात करो यार.
Didn't say anything, and because he didn't say anything, I also didn't.
Naturally, that means he did not imply that. But because I keep getting this question, people keep asking me. कई बार वो GTO बोलते हैं कि you pick up this lead, then you restrict to that. So then you will have to do that. That's what it is as per the GTO, because he is moderating the thing.
Yeah, whatever instructions. So this is true for each and every test that you have during the 5 days. They will clearly tell you what to do in the next task. just simply follow it. Whatever you have heard, I'll say, even if it is from you, if the GTO is giving a separate instruction, follow that, because he's the one on the ground. He's the one telling you what to do. He's the one assessing you. Follow that. That is what common sense will say.
जो थे ये सारे लोग जो थे कोचिंग कोचिंग से होके आए हुए थे, तो जब ये बल्ली फट्टे वाले टास्क शुरू हुए पीजीटी वाला ना 40 मिनट का, तो वर यू फीलिंग इनसिक्योर, यू फीलिंग ओके यार ठीक है हो जाएगा?
No, one thing was that my group, even I guess most of them were coached. I did not really ask them anything as such, but all of them were really familiar with it. But the good thing about my group was that they were not really aggressive. If you're telling something, if it makes sense, they take that in their stride, and they say, okay, this makes sense, we'll do it. Obviously there were points of contention at different points of time, but yeah, whenever they had ideas, I tried helping them implement it, and that was the case for the first 2 or 3 stages in the PGT. I didn't really know what to do. They had an idea what to do. So whenever they wanted me to hold the weight, I held the weight. Whenever they wanted me to tie the rope, I tied the rope. And whenever I had ideas, I said it out loud, and when it made sense, they'd also do it. Obviously there were people who had different ideas, and at that point of time, what I did is that, okay, let's go. Sometimes I said, okay, let's go forward with your idea. If it doesn't work, we'll go forward with mine. Sometimes I said, okay, mine seems to take less bit of time, so let's try doing this first. And I'll say almost personally, I would have said I would recommend all of those people. All of them were pretty good, and yeah.
How many from your group got recommended?
From my group, 3 out of 8 people.
3 got. So it was a very strong group, because that's not very normal these days. Generally you got one odd chap getting recommended from a group.
And 3 of them are freshers, and then the repeaters group also, 2 got recommended.
नहीं, we are talking of your GT group. उसमें 8 में से 3 हो गए.
Yeah, 3 got recommended.
That's a very good group.
Yeah.
अच्छा ये बताओ यार, ये the practical guide तो आपने cover to cover पूरा पढ़ दिया हुआ है. What things in that have really been beneficial to you in life practically, अगर आप सोचो?
Sir, he'll tell you how a person with common sense will think, and
मैंने लिखा है common sense है.
I'm not exactly sure which point exactly to talk about, but generally, you'll have a sense of how to deal with situations. What is the priority that you should be looking at, rather than all the noise that you have. So every situation that you have, there is white noise, and then there is actual content. The book, for me, overall, what the book helped me is figuring out what is the actual content, how to focus on it. Let's say even during the psych test. So before reading the book, I had read on a lot of online sources that, okay, you have to practice it, you have to get fast and yes up. But then the book said, okay, these are common words that you use. Whatever comes to your mind, write it down. Doesn't really matter how grammatically beautiful the sentence is. That is the assessment.
We'll get out of the SSB section. Let's come to the personality development section. Certain things like improving willpower, then reasoning ability, then time management and all that. Did you have this clarity beforehand, before you went through all this stuff? Ke yaar, ye time management ka ye quadrant ka chakkar aisa.
So the thing is, in my college, so because I come from a village, I didn't really have much opportunities in my village. But once I went to my college, I had a lot of different opportunities. I had sports, I had extracurricular activities, studies to hota hi rehta hai. So I went into all of them. In my first year, I was part of almost every group. But by the end of first year, I was sure, okay, I won't be able to do everything. I'll just focus on whatever interests me a lot, and I'll go forward with that. So sports has always been a part of my life. So I knew I was in my college cricket team. I did that. Athletics, I've always, even during my school time, I had also gone for my state athletics and all that. So athletics also I wanted to do. And then there was this a group called IEEE. It's basically a engineers group where you have a lot of conferences, seminars, I was also part of that. I was part of that in the sense that I was part of the organizing committee. So that is something that I really like doing, organizing events, dealing with people. That is something I always loved. So I was always part of that. And then I also volunteered as a placement cell volunteer organizing different placement drives and ASAP. So when you're doing all these activities, it's either you figure out how to manage your time or you won't be able to focus on anything. So for me, it was I was put in the deep end of the pool and I had to sink or swim. I chose swimming. So you figure. So for me, I didn't really read any helping materials or anything on of such sort on time management. It's just that I had to do it. I figured out a way to do it, and then that kept on. It kept carrying forward. But then, as you know, during the lockdown, all those things happened. But then the job, that is where the job actually helped me. Whatever I was doing. So for me, the biggest issue was that during lockdown, I was not engaged at all. I was not doing anything. And for me, I have always been someone who's been doing either one thing or the other all the time. And that was the problem that I was facing. And job basically solved that for me. It was a very engaging job. It was a challenging job. I was put in the position that I have, associate program manager, is not something that a fresher always gets. But somehow my managers thought that okay, I would be able to do it, and they put me in that role, and I was able to carry it forward. But obviously, because I was fighting an uphill battle, it was challenging, and that is what I wanted. And so yeah, these kind of things, time management and all that. If you are doing enough things in your life, you will learn it. You will either learn it or okay, you will make mistakes and then you learn from it.
Fine, that is all I had to ask you. So thanks a lot for your time and explaining things in a very candid manner, and also having a very candid approach towards the entire SSB, being very open throughout your. I mean, you're the same person through all the stages of the testing. And probably the interviewing officer was also getting a little bit surprised as to how come this person is so, open and transparent, because generally people are not. So that is how it is. Fine, great.